We're going to be taking a look at the South Korean Daewoo rifle. This specific rifle is a post-ban civilian import model. We're going to get into exactly what that means in a bit, but let's go ahead and take a good look over this rifle and we'll get familiar with it before we continue on with that. So here we are, got the muzzle, front sight block / gas block, kind of weird looking hand guards or heat shields. Right here, this receiver, upper and lower, look very similar to a regular AR. And then we have our pistol grip and stock, which it did not come with, but we'll get into that when we're talking about the pre-ban and post-ban models. So as you can pretty much see, it looks a lot like an AR. There's a little bit of differences, but it has a lot of similarities with the M16 and also a few with the AK system actually. We'll get into that once we take the rifle apart and we'll take a good look at the inside. Let's go ahead and take a look at the controls first. It's pretty much standard AR controls. Anyone familiar with an AR is going to be super familiar with the Daewoo rifle system. So we'll go ahead and start with the mag. So this right here, this is a 20 round straight magazine. It's a standard AR mag, 5.56-223. It's empty, of course. Rifle is cleared. But as you can see, to insert it, just throw it in. It'll catch on the mag catch. And then if you want to release, you press the mag release button, much like an AR. Trigger is a standard AR trigger. Any trigger group or fire control group that you want to put in this rifle, it can accept standard AR fire control group. The safety is different. So obviously you're not going to be able to swap that out with an AR safety, but the fire control group can be swapped out. It is interchangeable with an AR. To charge the rifle, we have a non-reciprocating bolt handle here. Just grab it, pull back, release. Pretty simple, kind of like an AK almost, but whenever you fire, this whole assembly is going to come back, carrier and bolt. The other side, we have our safety right here. It's in safe at the moment, so instead of an AR where you flip it up and down, this actually rotates over the top. So if I want to put it in fire, flip it up and around. It's in semi right now. There's only one fire mode, obviously. So back to safe, up and around. Now we have a bolt catch / bolt release right here. Anyone who's familiar with ARs is pretty familiar with how this works. But go ahead and insert this magazine and then we will rack the bolt back. It has a last round bolt hold open. So if you want to drop the bolt, say, I ran out of ammo, take the magazine out, throw a fresh one in, you can just go ahead and press it down like you would a standard AR, and that's going to release the bolt and load a new round. We'll go ahead and get into the sights. So the rear sight is going to look a lot like an older AR / M16 rifle. Front sight is a little bit different. It has a full hood on it, and it's actually really big and wonky looking. But with the rear sight, we have our windage right here, which there's a detent. You'd go ahead and put your tool or even the tip of a round in there to adjust your windage. On the other side, we have our elevation knob. So if I want to bring it up, down, I will turn this knob one way or the other. There are 2 holes here. Those holes are for any accessory rails that you want to put on here. So if you want to mount a scope or an optic, you have 2 holes right here, and you would purchase a rail that is for this model of rifle. And this is also for standard K2 rifles, not only the post-ban models. So anything that's made to go on a Korean K2 will fit just fine on this. Right here we have an adjustable gas block. There are 2 settings on this, I believe. The setting it's on right now is going to be full power, I believe. That's full gas. And then the second one is adverse mode, which is lower gas. That'd be something if you're using a suppressor and you're getting a lot of gas back on your system, you'd put that and it would close the hole more. That way you're not getting as much gas into the system. So what features does this have as a post-ban rifle as opposed to a pre-ban? So let's go ahead, we'll start at the front. We have a It looks like a muzzle brake, but it has no holes in it. This is more like a cup or a flash can even, just a really small one. There's no real function to it. There are threads underneath that, but it is soldered in there. So to get that off, you would need to heat it up, melt that solder, and then you would need to remove it right here on the gas block / front sight block. There's usually bayonet lugs here, or there would be on a pre-band model or an actual K2 service rifle. On here, it's been flattened down so that there cannot be a bayonet attached to it. And then the biggest thing is going to be the stock. The Korean K2 has a folding stock, so it has a hinge built into the rifle. How you attach this is there's a screw in the back where the buffer usually goes, and it just screws directly into this. And the pistol grip is also a 3D printed / aftermarket. This right here is the standard thumbhole stock that these rifles were imported with. Looks a little funky, maybe just for some ergonomics, but yeah, this is a DR-200 / DR-300, which is a 7.62 by 39 model of the same rifle. Also only post-band version. This is what it came with. So you can swap this out. They have adapters. This right here is an adapter. So if you wanted to remove the old thumbhole stock, you can grab an adapter. This one is a 2-bolt adapter, as you can see in the back. And you can go ahead, we can take the screw off, slap it onto the back, and then you can put the screw through stock screw hole, attach that, and you can put 2-bolt, anything with 2-bolt stocks, or you can even get a 2-bolt Picatinny rail, throw it on there, and then you can have a Picatinny stock. But this is just one kind of adapter that these have. So let's go ahead, we'll take this thing apart, and we can see exactly what the inside looks like, and we can compare it to a traditional AR and also an AK system, because it does have similarities with both of them. First thing first, this is going to be our recoil spring. I guess you'd just call it a button, almost like an AK. You're going to push this button in, and then you can pivot the upper from the lower up. So we'll take this out. This is going to be your recoil spring / bolt return spring. Looks very similar to an AK style. And then we're going to pull the carrier back to this little hole right here, if you can see. And this is to remove the bolt handle, or charging handle. Then we can go ahead and pull the whole bolt out, as well as the piston. So this looks a lot like the top of an AK on the carrier. We have our piston up here. We have our extension of the piston that is going to come up and over the carrier. And then we have our recoil spring that actually goes inside of that portion, much like an AK. Then we have our actual bolt carrier group, which this looks a lot like an AR bolt carrier. We can compare it here in a second, but has the multi-locking lug system, has a pivot there, and a firing pin right there. So we can go ahead and take a look at the inside. So this is our fire control group. This is our trigger and hammer assembly. Right now I have a Geisley trigger in there, and it is very nice. Pretty much an AR. That's pretty much all it is. Even the safety is pretty similar to an AR. It's a little bit different, but generally works the same. You can see right here our bolt catch / bolt release, pretty much just like a regular AR. Catch goes up on the magazine follower whenever the mag's empty. Swap it out, press it in, drop the bolt. So instead of a traditional AR-15 spring-loaded ejector, we have this kind of shark fin almost spring-loaded blade there. That's your ejector. So rounds come out, it's going to hit this blade, your round's going to pop out, much like an AK would with a shark fin built into the rails. And before I forget, right here we have a little buffer portion right there. So if the bolt goes back, it has a little bit of cushioning. It's a spring-loaded buffer. We can go ahead and take apart this bolt carrier group. Stick this pick in here, take out our cotter pin. Then our firing pin should come straight out. Looks a lot like a standard AR-15 firing pin. We'll take our block out, and then our bolt comes right out just like that. And then this is the carrier itself. Nothing too fancy, kind of looks like a half cut off AR bolt, but there you go, pretty much stoner AR-15 style. So here we have a pretty standard AR-15 semi-automatic cut bolt carrier, and then this is the Daewoo's carrier right here. You can see it's very, very similar, and except the back is pretty much cut off, but extremely similar. These are the firing pins. Left side is the Daewoo's, right side is the AR-15's. As you can see, AR-15 firing pin is a little bit shorter. Not sure if these are interchangeable or not, but it is definitely a little bit shorter. Here we have our actual bolts. On the left is the Daewoo's bolt, and then on the right is the AR-15 bolt. You can see pretty similar, almost exactly the same, just about, except there is no spring-loaded extractor on the Daewoo's bolt. There is on the AR, and then it's missing the gas rings because the gas system is different for the Daewoo, so the gas rings aren't necessary. All right, I have here in my right hand, this is an AK recoil spring assembly. On the left is the Daewoo's. As you can see, it's very similar construction, both captive recoil springs. They both have a guide on them. Rear is obviously a little bit different. These are not the same rifle, but the gas system is very similar. This right here, this is the Daewoo's piston. Right here we have a carrier from an AK. As you can see, there's very heavy inspiration from the AK system that got put into the Daewoo. They're both long stroke gas pistons, and even as far as to the pistons, looking extremely similar, if not identical. All right, we can go ahead and put our bolt carrier group back together. Bolt just slides into your carrier. Make sure that's in the right position. Put our block / lug in there. Drop our firing pin inside. Make sure that's seated down pretty good. Then we can drop our cotter pin back into the hole to retain the firing pin. So putting this back together, we're going to start off with our piston. Throw that in there, not all the way. So that way we can lock it into the carrier cutout. Pull this back a little bit. We'll lock that into the cutout there on the carrier, and it should just slide in, if I don't drop it, slide in without too much trouble. I'm saying that and it's having a hard time going in. And then our charging handle fits in with this little dovetail slot that is going to go right here. Then we can go ahead and throw our recoil spring in there. We're going to push it forward, bring it down, pivot it back in, release. I got this rifle a few years back, and that's when I was familiar with the prices. But from what I've seen recently on auctions and other gun sales, these are still hovering around that $1,000 to $1,300 price range. Obviously, the pre-band models, the actual K2s or Max 2s, or even they're called AR-100s. Those are three names that the pre-band models came in, the ones with the folding stocks. But if it looks similar to this, like I said, no bayonet lug with that flash cup on there, and then also a lot of times they're still going to have the thumb hole stock. But if it doesn't have a folding stock, no bayonet, and it does not have an actual muzzle brake, it's going to be a DR-200. It's even printed on the side if you are confused about it. It says right here, DR-200 223 cal. These barrels are the exact same 20-inch 5.56 rated barrels that came with the the Korean K2 rifles that were put in service. So it says 223, you can shoot 5.56 out of this 100%, no problem, no extra wear. It is made for it. Basically just wanted to go over a little bit of information of these rifles, some history. Feel free to leave anything in the comments if you think I missed something or I didn't go over something maybe as detailed as I should, or even if I got something wrong. You can go ahead and leave a comment. I'll pin any useful information or anyone who shows interest in the subject, just so everyone has a greater understanding of these rifles, what they do, what they don't do, and basically if it's a rifle that they might want in their collection. Anyways, that's about all I have to talk about. Hope you enjoyed, learned something, and happy shooting.